Hi guys, I'm Elia and today I want to talk about the use of AI for QA tasks. I constantly use AI in my work and I want to share my experience of recent months. Will AI really replace testers? Should we be afraid of cutbacks and cyber QA audits? How does AI help testers work and for which testers actually? So don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Let's get started. As a beginning, I want to say that LLM is a great base for introducing to any field or subject, and the QA is no exception. AI does an excellent job of explaining testing theory. It can interactively explain the best practices, share the knowledge and accumulated past experience, recommend the QA related books, answer questions and help a junior tester to dive into QA area. If so, then a reasonable question arises. Can AI completely replace the tester? And this question is ambiguous. Considering the pace of AI development, the answer is yes. On the other hand, there are several pitfalls and nuances. I use AI assistants every day in my work, and I may say that now the capabilities of AI are comparable to several junior testers at once. Existing AIs can perform very well of what young testers can do being under control of the senior. Let's say, depending on the AI model and how you use it, AI can handle tasks of a manual tester very well, like write checklists or troubleshooting, and act as a test designer. Describe test cases in details, but with the nuance that you, as a senior tester, still need to control and correct it and, what is most importantly, have a good understanding of your subject area. The fact is that AI can perform a task quite well and put it in layman's terms in the most understandable and obvious way. This means you shouldn't expect complex, interconnected, and most importantly, deep-nested scenarios from AI. Don't expect that it will separate test data from test cases, although it knows perfectly well how to do it right. So, every time you will need to adjust AI and its outputs, redo it, complete it, deepen it. Tell again and again, rework, 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 show me in several options, retry. And every time you will confront a problem, that consistency of cases is because of size limitation of the context, the data and instructions with which your AI works. This is similar to how to train a junior tester to fit you, to fit your vision, to fit the depth and accuracy, style you need, to fit your capabilities and cost, in terms of money and time and productivity. And due to this, you need to provide the context before generation each time, or retrain the model to suit your specific needs, substitute embeddings, fine-tune models, etc. In other words, without a lot of context, giving some tasks to AI, which can be done by middle tester, won't work at all, because AI doesn't have enough context and a control mechanism, some feedback loop. Thus, you must control it every and each interaction. But we can try to delegate control also, but let's not hurry for now. At the same time, AI is not just a tool for delegating routine, but it also your helpful assistant and handy reference, deeply involved in solving your problems. Give it a log, an error, a problem, or ask how to set up some environment or tool, and the AI will do its task quickly and perfectly without human being need to Google Stack Overflow. But you need to understand that most models are relevant for a certain date of training, and their model will not know about changes made in recent weeks, months, or even a year, unless of course it has access to internet search. Further, I'll move on to automated testing only, because actual thing performed by AI is automation of every routine you may have. So what do I personally use AI for and what kind? I've been using Copilot from GitHub for 3 months. That is, I pay $10 a month for it. Is it worth it? To be honest, for me, yes. I really like to delegate writing comments, doc strings and other documentation to Copilot. In most cases it does this well, But if you need something else, something more, then on the second or third try it picks up what you want from it, in what style to write docstrings, in what terms, and from which modules and packages. This functionality at last, but not least for me, is worth the time I would have spent writing documentation. But the functionality of Copilot is not limited to just generating documentation. Copilot can also generate code, functions, classes. For simplicity, I assume Copilot as an enhanced version of IDE hint mechanism. As far you started to write code, it will spit out the most likely completions of your code to you. This doesn't always work as I expected, but at least you'll have the option to choose both the Copilot hint or classic IDE substitution. As for generating code from the description, and even more so from the function name, everything getting worse. AI can generate skeletons and some trivial functions, or vary those that you have already written. But if you need some specific logic, then most probably you will have to write it by yourself. And here's an important nuance. As a developer tool, Copilot is more of a fifth wheel than a help. It can easily generate incorrect code that you will then have to debug. But as a test automation tool, it's not bad at all, producing similar tests in essence literally just by pressing 2-3 keys on the keyboard to complete whole test at all. This accelerates the work by an order of magnitude. Do you need to test your web form? Just write 1 or 2 tests and then start writing the name of the test, and now you have all the rest written. In total, as in the case of Junior Tester and in the case of Copilot, you will need to provide both of them examples, stories, and show them how to write tests correctly, to use generators instead of hard code, and both of them most probably need to have a ready-made POM, or at least part of it. Yes, for sure you can try to extract it from the generation, but not everything is as rosy as if you were to supplement it by analogy. On the other hand, Copilot can explain someone else's code quite well if you need it. It can fix errors in code and optimize, shorten the code. Note that it can do this in unusual and unexpected way, and even discard what you need, but again, you can adjust it. Last, what you can do using Copilot is to generate unit tests based on the source code of your software. And, actually, quite accurately and not bad at all, even with mocking. This is quite impressive, but you still need to keep in mind that there is always a chance that something will not work either the first or the 5th time. Because saying it one more time, Copilot, like any other AI, also have a problem with the size of the context, that is, the depth of your calls, code, and its complexity and specific architecture. So it's more junior AI engineer, not a middle. You still cannot delegate to it the task like, cover my functionality with 100% tests. It won't cover, at least without your active participation. Whether you use Copilot or not, other regular QA tasks can also be delegated to AI. For example, every day when I write tests, I ask LLM to write me locators or even whole POM objects using my template. How it looks like? I provide the AI bot the source code of the page and ask it to generate POM objects for me. This accelerates my work, but at the same time, the result still needs to be revised and iteratively improved. For example, the locators that the bot will quickly produce will be too far from good. So you will need to clarify what and how you want to be shortened and improved. The AI bot is the same junior guy who needs to learn that them don't just need to take and copy a huge XPath from the browser dev tools, you know, because it will break as far next very first change will be introduced to front end. Well, of course this applies not only to UI testing, but also to API. You also can pass Swagger's JSON file to AI and ask it to write test base. Cover API endpoints calls in your code and test for responses and parameters of them. In general, if your team have good software architecture and documentation, you can get ready-made tests on the fly. If necessary, provide extra the requirements and documentation to the model and adjust it to expand your model, how it may look. Pass URL to AI bot, tell it to write tests, then rewrite them in POM style, and here they are ready-made tests. Moreover, you can find that other AI services and tools already exist that not only allow you to write tests on the fly, but also poke your site live with a robot just from your user browser session. It looks impressive and replaces the work of a manual tester who sits behind you under your control. Only difference is here that it can immediately write down the auto test code. Well, I'm talking about Cider.ai, which is not a cheap, but at least you need to try it. And here we got to the most frustrating problem, the lack of AI of your context. Let's say, no matter how wonderful the AI is, it will not have ability to use for test cookie or SSO to obtain information from externally closed pages and system. Also, if you need your own style and code, your framework, you need to provide your own code base and/or documentation. So, you may need to use some embeddings package in model. This is the first problem. Most likely your auto tests already use your some test framework and bindings, your POM functions and helpers that the AI does not know about. Secondly, problem that it would be nice not to sit with the AI and copy HTML JSON to it, then receive a response, copy it into your code and then check and back and repeat. Why not to delegate it to AI? Just say, hey dude, come back with final result. Well, I, and most likely you, want that it's not a junior, but such an electronic middle tester. Is it possible to achieve the task of grew up a manually driven junior tester into a semi-automatic middle still assigned on you, and you must perform, but take a break and review. It's almost done. Generally speaking, the AI has all the necessary details. It can generate locators, page objects, and tests based on them too. We need to unite, assemble, and give AI the opportunity to receive feedback on the nonsense that he wrote, generate, and change. So let's send errors back to it so that it may fix the code. Do you want also to fix styles and docstrings, cases, issues? Let AI fix it until he gets 100% pass rate of runners and linters. As a prototype, proof of concept, I will use my OpenAI wrapper. In order to get something expected and reasonable from the AI, I will use ChatGPT-4, and I will also need to use functions that will do all the dirty work. Function call to receive page content and function call to run tests. So that means that I need to use the GPT-4 0613 model. I will use PyTest Selenium as a framework cause of simplicity, regularity, and familiarity. And because the mine OpenAI wrapper is also written using Python, my entire testing framework will consist of just one conf-test file with a driver fixture, a runner, and by default we will assume that for each unique page we de facto have a fixture that will open the required page for testing. In real life, probably before starting the test, we would go through authentication and somehow manage the environment. But let's leave that out. At least we're experimenting. We are already in fact running tests from the real-like environment. At first, let's write system instructions for the bot. We need 3 things from it. 1. I'll ask to receive the page code by calling a certain function, and then generate JSON for it, which will contain page objects and tests in a certain format. 2. Run a specific test and get the result. If there is an error, fix it. 3. Repeat 2. If necessary, I, as an user, can enhance test generation with user context, requirements, styling, test data, demanded cases, coverage, etc. In order to reduce GPT tokens consumption, we'll get a page. It's better to do this not with a request, but with the help of Selenium, so that possible JavaScript can be processed on the page. Then we'll remove everything unnecessary and insignificant, just leaving only the body and remove all scripts from it. You can easily expand it as you need, for example, removing repeating elements, sidebars, headers, etc. To do this for prototype, I wrote the page retriever class. We also need a runner that will receive data for AI feedback on completed tests. Let's say we use the PyTest JSON report plugin to obtain test results data. In the report, I will add information about past and failed tests. For each failed test, I will add the error itself if necessary. You can put a traceback there also. And it would also be a good idea to send back the page code at the time of the failure happened. This will be useful for the AI to see what has changed on the page, so to be able to change actual to the correct expected values. To be honest, in real life the pages are not so small, and providing a page for every error is too exhaustive. So we will still be limited by the size of the content and the relatively high cost in tokens of such an experiment. But what is actual truth that AI's work costs are cents, not hundreds of dollars like human being junior middle tester? Next steps. I add functions and JSON for ChatGPT, which will call page retriever and runner respectively. Since we expect the AI to return only tests and POMs elements and not entire files, this way we also save a little tokens, we need to take this on ourselves and write a class that will recreate the file every time it needed. We will call it ourselves, but we could ask the AI to do this also, or even make a separate variation so that the headers of the files is created for our tests. Here you can further improve it. Add logic for updating the file rather than recreating it, adding tests to existing ones and so on. But for the experiment, it's enough for me to simply recreate the entire file. Finally, when we have all the parts, let's just call everything in the right order. Receiving a page, generating and running tests takes 1.5 minutes, which is not so bad for the time of one iteration. The results of the blind generation look quite good. Yes, it would be possible to write more tests, but overall the AI has written basic checks and the tests look correct. So for example, in the first iteration 1 out of 5 passed. It's not entirely fair, but in the second iteration the AI corrected the first test with missing assert and corrected rest of the tests based on the test execution results. Now we have 4 out of 5 tests passing in just 3 minutes. As you can see, the approach works, and going through page by page, you can quickly create working tests for your web application, taking into account the fact that if you have requirements or documentation, what is still much better and correct way than by providing this info to the AI, as well as specifying what scenarios you want to see, negative scenarios, boundary values, flow tests, injections, you can achieve very good results in semi-automatic mode just by passing a set of URLs to the script. Now I can't imagine my life and future work without AI. Using AI in my work increases my productivity by an order of magnitude. I hope that with the development of AI technology, new approaches, models, services, returns from them will also increase without increasing prices and decreasing the quality. And many things that today require participation and involvement of senior testers, SDET, QA managers will also be delegated to AI. Does this mean that testers are no longer needed? No. Despite all the wonderful descriptive and generative capabilities, AI is just a powerful tool, a machine if you will, which you also need to know how to use, and if you don't know how, you can cut off your fingers or even dumbhead. Does this mean that junior testers are not needed? Yes and no. You still need to spend time grazing both the juniors and the AIs. You need to invest in both of them and you will get a return. Labor power, moral satisfaction, and freeing up time. AI learns quickly but requires reconfiguration for each task and further recheck. Human testers in this regard are more flexible and versatile, but also slower. In my opinion, the introduction of AI will raise the bar for entering the profession, more curious and adaptive. But at the same time, AI will make entry into QA workflow faster and more effective, since junior testers also have access to this tool. The number of people required on the team will decrease. Answering the question of HR and hiring managers also, should we fire employees, start layoffs? If a person can be replaced by AI now, then I have a counter question for you. Why do you keep such people? Why did you hire them? A good tester, even a junior who has decided to master a profession, cannot be replaced by a tool, just as workers at a factory were not replaced by machines. If a person understands what his profession is and wants to develop by reading books or communicating with AI, then any tool in his hands and the contribution to the team from this person will be higher than that of any AI, simply because of his ambitions and aspirations. If this is a person who, like an AI, needs to be asked to open and do it every time, but at the same time wait not a minute but a week for the result, then the answer is obvious. Can AI solve any existing problem today? No, just as it requires permanent monitoring and double-checking, and only by a senior person. On the other hand, AI allows you to very quickly resolve simple, often routine issues, invest into for the long term, but boring activities. Roughly speaking, if you have a customer for whom you need to do something quickly, but not necessarily efficiently, get some test coverage and check that it works smoke model, then this can be done in minutes. Why not? And finally, you may focus on the important things within and outside of work. Let the robots do the work. Come. It wasn't Ilya. It was an AI robot, as well as photos and even animations, code stuff were generated by AI. So everything in except of idea and final cut of this video. But anyway, don't forget to like and share this video. Have fun. For now, bag of bones. Beep beep.